Akbar. I mean, charity is something that is very, very fundamental in our deen, in our religion. I mean, tell me about the Sahaba. How charitable were they? And
Sahaba were incredible people. Incredible people. And before we speak about Sahaba, it came from their teacher, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Because my brothers and sisters, not only did he give, don't think about Rasulullah that mashallah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that he was someone who, look, if I had some money in my pocket, then he would give. No, he gave in a way where it made others. In fact, we know of the story of someone who watched Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam do an action of charity. He went back to his people and he says, "Oh my people, this man gives in such a way, he has to be a prophet. He doesn't fear poverty. He doesn't fear it." And this is the core of giving in charity, because we know that he sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he says charity, when you give in charity, it's proof.
Sadaqatu burhan.
Naam, it's evidence. It's a dalil of what? That there's iman in the heart. That there's firm belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
And His promise, of course.
Of course, and His promise. So you find that when you have a teacher like this, who gave a non-Muslim at the time, a massive flock of sheep that were in between two valleys.
Two mountains, and there was a valley, a full valley of sheep.
Two mountains, and all these sheep. And now today, living in city or in suburban areas, you think of sheep, what am I going to do with a sheep? For these people in that time, livestock was everything.
That's right.
Having one live animal made the difference between luxury and poverty at that time. So to give a valley full to someone who's not, we're not talking about someone that was the best friend of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or someone who had, no. But he sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he's seen the glitter in this man's eyes, drooling, looking at this wealth, thinking, wow. So he sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he says, do you like this stuff? Man says, and who wouldn't love such a thing? He says, all of it is for you.
Allahu Akbar.
He gave in such a way. So when you have a teacher that's like this, what do you expect from the students? They actually competed against one another. Really, brothers and sisters, or even yourself, Malaz, when was the last time you woke up in the morning and you said, you know what? I want to shop around today. I want to see who gave the most, because today I plan on beating him.
Allahu Akbar. Look at that that sort of energy in competition.
So for them, it wasn't just, I'm going to give some money today. No. Umar ibn al-Khattab says, today I'm looking. He says, in fact, because he already knew, radiallahu ta'ala anhu, like he already knew that the man he had to beat was Abu Bakr.
Radiallahu anhu.
So he knew, look, this is the man I got to beat. So he imagined waking up in the morning thinking, today's the day I finally get to be number one.
Subhanallah.
So this was Sahaba. This was the atmosphere. So he comes to the Prophet of Allah and he says to him, "O Prophet of Allah, today I've come to you with money." He says to him, Umar ibn al-Khattab, "What is it that you've brought?" And I always try to imagine being there. I think, being there, being a part of that environment. He says, "O Prophet of Allah, I come to you today with half my wealth."
Allahu Akbar. 50%.
50%. And he's saying of my wealth, not what's in my pocket. Sometimes when you ask for money, you're in the masjid and they're asking for money, you tend to pull out the wallet. And I don't know about yourself, but with me, I usually have, I have them in order, from the biggest note to the smallest note. So you flick to the side the big ones, or the ones that you don't want to give, and then you suss out what's left of the small ones, and then you pick it out and you give. No. He didn't split in half what was in his pocket or his wallet. He gave half his wealth.
Allahu Akbar.
Everything he owned. He says, "O Prophet of Allah, I come to you today with half my wealth." So he asks an amazing question. He says, "Umar, if you're giving me half, what have you left for your family?" He says, "O Prophet of Allah, I've left the other half."
Allahu Akbar.
And then imagine from this, who walks into the gathering?
Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu.
Number one. Number one position walks in. And then he, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he asks Abu Bakr, he says, Abu Bakr, what have you brought forward today? He says, today, O Prophet of Allah, I come to you with all my wealth.
All my wealth.
All, zeroed. In fact, some of the scholars write, it was to the point where, and I'm sure that they're just trying to display an image of how much. Some say he even pulled the nails that were holding his door.
Allahu Akbar.
Yani everything. Zeroed. You know, for many of us, when we hear giving up all your wealth, you think, Allahu Akbar, how amazing is that? What an incredible act. And it is. But what I find more amazing than anything is when the Prophet ﷺ, he says, Abu Bakr, if you're giving me everything, what have you left for your family? He says, I left Allah and His Messenger.
Allahu Akbar.
See, for these people, Allah and His Prophet were dearer to them than whatever money could do. You know? So, yeah, yani coming back, Sahaba were incredible people.
Subhanallah.
Uthman gave so much money, he gave so much gold, that he, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he ran his fingers through the gold that Uthman gave with a big smile on his face and says, imagine the Prophet saying this about you. Imagine you gave some money and then the Prophet ran his fingers through the gold with a big smile on his face. And don't think he's smiling because of the money that's in front of him. We know that if he sallallahu alayhi wasallam wanted money, Allah would have turned the mountains around him into gold for him. But that's not what he was smiling about. I feel that what he was smiling about is that the men around him have reached the proper level of understanding. He ran his fingers through the gold and he says, nothing that Uthman will do after this day will affect his deen.
Allahu Akbar.
Khalas, Uthman is in Jannah. His legs are just lagging behind in dunya now. He was just waiting. So,
SubhanAllah, some great examples. Inshallah, we'll get to a quick break, and when we come back, we'll be speaking to Brother Mohamed Hoblos more about the act of charity.